This is America's luxury Land Cruiser Prado. It's called the Lexus GX 550 Overtrail Plus. We're going to check out all the features, take it for a drive, and then hit the trail. Right now on Driving Sports TV. For the past 22 years, the Lexus GX has been the go-to choice for buyers that want to combine adventure, luxury, and reliability. Even when the first GX was introduced to North America way back in 2002, it had a solid lineup of off-road ready features: a powerful V8 engine, dual-range gearbox, KDSS suspension, and a Torsen center differential. For the next chapter of the GX, Lexus is really leaning into that heritage with an all-new vehicle that is packed with the latest equipment, technology, and style. This is the new 2024 Lexus GX 550 Overtrail. The exact trim we have here is the Overtrail Plus, which as you see it is $80,915 US, including destination. Like the GX models that came before it, the 2024 edition is based on the global Land Cruiser Prado, a smaller version of the full-size Land Cruiser. Now you might be looking at it saying, well, what's with the face? Why does it look different than other Lexus vehicles? Well, the headlights and grille are actually placed high to avoid impacts. And then the lower section here is designed for more trail abuse. Unlike a street car, this is going to be hitting bushes and branches. Maybe some dirt, maybe some rocks. Ground clearance on Overtrail trims is 8.86 inches. You also get a 26-degree approach angle, 24-degree breakover, and 22-degree departure angles. Wading depth is officially 27.56 inches. Under the hood is a 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6. This produces up to 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. It does require premium fuel, and the EPA rates this setup at 17 miles to the gallon in town and 21 on the highway. So if you're wondering what's the big difference between this Lexus GX 550 and the Land Cruiser that we're getting from Toyota later this year, yes, they're both based on the Prado. However, the Land Cruiser is getting a hybrid 4-cylinder setup where this has a turbo 6. Obviously, there are other differences as well, but that's kind of the big one. The transmission is a 10-speed automatic with a center Torsen differential for full-time 4-wheel drive. Final drive is 3.307. The suspension up front is double wishbone. In the back, you get a 4-link setup with coil springs. An updated version of the kinetic dynamic suspension system, otherwise known as KDSS, is included in the Overtrail trims. This minimizes roll in the corners when you're on pavement, but without sacrificing articulation when you go off-road. We'll test that a little bit later. All GXs come from the factory with a tow hitch. This Overtrail Plus trim can tow up to 9,096 pounds. Of course, it also has ventilated disc brakes all around with 4 pots up front and singles in the rear. Because the Overtrail is an off-road oriented vehicle, yes, it does actually come with decent all-terrain tires. These are Toyo Open Country AT3s. They are mud and snow rated, and they even have a 3-peak winter rating, which is great. Looking forward to driving these on the trail today. Now you might be thinking, wow, $80,000, that is a lot of money, but you don't have to spend that much to get a nicely equipped GX 550, because fact is, even the base trim, which they call premium, is very nicely equipped, and it has 3 rows. While most of this video is going to focus on the new Overtrail Plus trim, because I think that is the most exciting version of the new GX 550, this is a premium. It's painted Nebula Gray. It goes for around $64,000, and I think it looks amazing. I mean, really, I don't think there's a bad trim level on this new GX 550, but obviously capabilities are dramatically different. This also gives me the opportunity to talk about features that are standard across all the GX trims. The first thing I want to talk about is something that you may not find very exciting, this A-pillar. Now, Lexus went through a lot of engineering to push this back to give a more vertical windshield. The benefit of a vertical windshield is you get more visibility. Moving that glass closer and those A-pillars in more gives you more outward visibility, which is key when you're off-road. Also, of course, has benefits when you're driving around town. Of course, on upper trims, you do get surround view camera systems, but nothing is better than actual visibility. You'll also notice that these mirrors, they're very stubby, very vertical. Gives you a nice view of the road, but without being obtrusive and hitting things along the trail. And then there's the hood. It's low in the middle to give you good forward visibility, but it still has these bulges to help you place your wheels. Very nice design setup. And everything's really been thought through, so it's not just for looks, although I do think it looks pretty good. I rather like the wheels even on this base trim. They are 20 inches and they are wrapped in Dunlop Grand Trek PT 5A tires. This is basically just a generic all-season radial, which is fine. It's an entry-level version. By this though, you could always throw some all-terrains on if that's really the look you want. So this overall design isn't just about looks, it's also extremely practical. In the back, you still get the good old flip-up glass, which is really nice to access the back when it's fully loaded. But one of the biggest changes back here is actually the way the door works. Before, it was a swing out. Now, it pops up. Personally, I prefer this design, and the reason is because it also acts as a rain shelter, which is really important when you're getting your gear. You don't want to get all wet or covered in snow. And of course, I live in Seattle where it rains a lot. Also back here, in this trim level, we actually get 3 rows of seats. The Overtrail Plus is only available currently with 2 rows. Of course, fold all the seats up and you have no cargo space in the back. So they're really only for emergency use or for very small children. Other features that you get in all GX trims, we have an AC power socket right over here. So one of the questions I get a lot is, can you sleep in it? Well, the seats don't fold completely flat, and in this premium trim, you do get a 3rd row, which elevates the floor slightly. But let's check it out. Okay, what do we got here? Well, I am 6'1", and I do fit. It's not ideal. I mean, my legs are a little bit too long, and also we have height difference between where the 3rd row folds and the 2nd row folds of about 1-2 inches. But if we added some extra padding down here, I think it would be just fine. Not bad for a mid-size. All GX trims do come with a tow hitch receiver. It's under this plastic piece right here, and they can all tow around 9,000 pounds, which is quite a lot for a mid-size vehicle. Even though this premium version doesn't have all the same level of equipment as the Overtrail Plus, it clearly is very well equipped, even for some light off-road adventures. You still get a center torsion differential, which is lockable. You still get a twin-turbo V6 engine. You still get the same great geometry. There's only minor differences between this and the Overtrail. And you also get a vehicle that looks amazing, especially on this gray-on-gray treatment. As a side note, there will also be a single motor hybrid available later. Now that we had a chance to check out this premium trim, let's go back to the Overtrail Plus to see what the new GX 550 is really capable of. Okay, boy, that doesn't open as far as I thought it would. Now we actually have to step up here into the 2nd row. Oh yeah, this is nice. Sculpted seat. I get a full down armrest with cup holders. Down here I have 3 stages of heat on the outboard seats. I also get USB-C sockets, vents, and then here I get a screen. Overall, pretty nice 2nd row. The downside is I don't have a ton of room here. This is actually where I would be seated if I were driving. I'm 6'1", legs and torso proportionate, and I fit, but I don't have a lot of spare room. I got a cactus on my foot. Okay, moving up front, slide right in. Didn't really have to climb in much because front row is lower than the 2nd row. Powered on. This seat is really comfortable. Oh, I like that. So I got a lot of power controls over here, a lot of adjustments. It's both heated and cooled, and I can just toggle it by tapping the screen up there. That's pretty nice. And all the stuff that you expect in a Lexus is here. This is the new Lexus design language, and I think they've applied it very nicely here. We have master controls for our transmission. Below that, we get the 4 high, 4 low, center locking diff, rear locking diff, multi-terrain select, multi-drive modes, tow haul mode, crawl control. All the greatest hits are here. I love it. The steering wheel feels fantastic. We got paddle shifters on the back. I even have a little charging pad here to put my phone, and you'll note that it's actually pretty snug there, so the device isn't going to rattle around too much, which is great. Now up here we have a smallish sunroof, but I think it's just fine. And then of course we also get their massive 14-inch display, which I've talked about in other videos and I really like. Center gauge cluster is digital. Again, it's a really nice setup. We can customize it. Yeah, I'm really excited to take this for a drive. So let's stop talking. Let's start driving. So now that we're on the road in the Overtrail Plus, it's time to consider these all-terrain tires and how loud they are on streets. And I have to say, they're really quiet. I don't really hear them. But there's a reason for that, and that's because these are not the standard Toyo Open Countries. These are an OEM version of them. Now they are at least still 3-peak rated, which is nice to see, but they don't have the same kind of tread depth, and I don't really know much about them. These aren't like E-load tires, which means they're probably not 8-ply, they're probably standard 4-ply. So if you want a super durable tire, and you want an all-terrain, these might not cut it for you, but I have to say, if you want the look and you want some mild all-terrain capability, they ride really nice for daily driving. Probably not too surprising, but the actual visibility in this thing is amazing. I feel like I'm commanding the road. This digital gauge cluster, really nice, large screen, and I especially like that they took this 14-inch display and they made it low. It doesn't intrude on my visibility up here, so I get a clear view of the hood right in front of me. And of course they did include their latest 3.0 safety sense system. That includes adaptive cruise control, collision mitigation, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alerts, all that stuff. And even though we're just cruising along here at about 40 miles an hour, we can go ahead and set it up, hit the button, hit cruise, and now it will track in the middle of the lines because it has lane detection and keep me at pace with the traffic. Now it'll never go faster than the vehicle in front of me. Of course, it'll use radar cruise control to keep our distance. So it has all the stuff that you would really want in a modern vehicle. One other feature that I really want to explore in this vehicle is something you just don't see in a lot of overlanding ready vehicles, and that's seat massagers. Now we're coming to a stop sign here. Now we can't go 60 because this is a 40 and they will throw you in jail if you do 20 over here in Arizona. So I'm just going to floor it for a real short bit and go. Whoa, once it hits 2K, yeah, you feel that. I like this motor. So of course, this one comes with a twin turbo V6 and there will be a hybrid later. We don't know any details about that. I don't believe there'll be a plug-in electric. It'll just be a hybrid with a single electric motor in the middle. That way they can keep all of the off-roady stuff. But this one, yeah, it picks up. And if you compare this versus the V8, the EPA ratings on this for MPGs is way better than the old V8. And this one also, of course, has a 10-speed automatic. And so far, I mean, I've just been cruising on the road here. It's picking gears like you want it to. In fact, let's go ahead and pop it through a couple with the paddle shifters. How fast is it? It's smooth and quick at shifting those gears. Nice. And then I can also pick one of the multiple drive modes for street. We have Eco Comfort, Sport S, Sport S Plus. Let's go into Sport S Plus and see how silly we can get. Okay, let's see. This should increase throttle and also adjust the variable dampers. Ooh, I get more sound. That's neat. It's downshift. I like the feel of the paddles. They're really nice. Ooh, that sounds great. Okay, that's cool. So far, driving this on pavement, it's a really nice vehicle to drive. You have great visibility, you have all the modern stuff that you would want. These seats are incredibly comfortable. Now, it's interesting to note that these seats actually have more bolstering than the lower trims. The Overland style trims, the Overtrails, they actually get one that holds you in a little bit better. The seat design is basically the same, but you get more padding in the bolsters. I really like these seats a lot. I hope the Land Cruiser I ordered has them. That'd be nice. Oh yeah, and by the way, I ordered a Land Cruiser, so it'll be interesting to compare that to this once that comes in. I have no idea when it's arriving. Apparently they said March, but the way vehicles are shipping, I'm just hoping for summer. For those of you who like the idea of a four-wheel drive system, but you're really not sure when to use it, like some vehicles have what's called part-time four-wheel drive. In that case, they're primarily rear-wheel drive, and you have to switch into four high or four low to get that engagement between the front wheels and the rear wheels. Vehicles like the 4Runner, most of those are part-time four-wheel drive. This vehicle is the best of both worlds, and it is because it has a torsion center differential. That means it has four-wheel drive all the time. So why am I calling it full-time four-wheel drive and not all-wheel drive? Well, that's because here in America, we actually differentiate between what four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive is. All-wheel drive is like what you get on crossovers, where it's basically open differentials all around and a variable clutch in the middle that shifts power front to back as it's needed. A four-wheel drive system uses a lock in the middle to have an even 50-50 power split, or if they're using a differential to step it down, it might vary it. But the key point is that it's basically provides a lock between the front and the back. The torsion center diff here is a torque sensing differential placed in the middle that shifts power back to front as necessary. And you can even lock it to have a proper lock. Not like one of those silly lock buttons that you see on a Kia where it's just suggesting to the multi-play clutch, yet the multi-play clutch will still decide if it wants to engage or disengage. No, this is a proper lock. You hit that, you have a 50-50 split front to back. Now, the reason you don't want to drive all over the place with a 50-50 split is when you're turning your wheels and going around turns, you actually need different amounts of power to the front and the back, or your wheels are going to start skipping on the cement. So you really can only use a part-time four-wheel drive system when you're on slippery surfaces. This bypasses that problem by allowing you that variability, but still having the lockability. It's a very nice system. Now, you do pay the penalty in MPGs for that, but personally, I think it's worth it. So we've had a chance to drive this on paved surfaces. Drives really smooth, super comfortable, love all the modern amenities, but now it's time to really challenge this vehicle. There's an off-road course that we're going to that Lexus has set up, and yes, the manufacturer did set it up. We will test this again at our own course a little bit later this year, but this will give us a really good taste of what this thing is capable of. One thing I'm going to say about these manufacturer press events, we as producers don't really have any control over what the manufacturer presents to us. Lexus actually knows how to build a proper off-road course. Unfortunately, it was washed away a few days ago when a rainstorm came through. So we are doing an alternative style drive. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be terribly technical. Just think of it as a fun outing in the Lexus GX, which is going to be about as hard as most people will do. For those of you who want to see something a little more extreme, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because we'll be doing that a little later this year. But it'll give us a first taste of what this vehicle can do. We can try out a few of the different modes, see how they respond, but we are doing this caravan style. In front of us, we have Roman and Tommy in an identical GX 550, but we're parade lapping basically through the desert, which will be nice. Just sit back, enjoy. We'll try out some of the features. We'll see how this goes. I think he's talking about the cactuses, people. It's a proper tour right here.
Imagine, if you will, a tiny seed the size of a pinhead. As it begins to grow, in its first decade of life, it only reaches 1.5 inches tall. It'll be 35 years old before it produces its first saguaro bloom.
I've known people like that.
By the time it reaches 50 to 75 years of age, it'll begin to sprout its first arm.
Its first arm?
The saguaros out here have been known to live up to 300 years.
Okay, I think we can turn that off. Let's drive. So now that we have the vehicle in 4 low, we're going to move ahead on the course here. I don't expect it's going to be really that hard, but one of the benefits of having it in 4 low is we get the great camera view up here, which is going to be really nice. They do say it's going to be on the tight side, so this gives us an opportunity to kind of, feel what the low range feels like, get a good sense of what this vehicle is capable of, and just kind of, enjoy the drive. Oh, also it turns off parking sensors, which is very important when you're off-road, because otherwise every single little twig is going to be like beep, 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 beep. Yeah, so that's all gone now that we're in 4-low. So crawl ratio is great. I'm feeling like really smooth here. Throttle in is good. Power is plentiful, obviously. Makes interesting noises. It is pretty down here. I do like the cactuses are neat. I mean, these cactuses are all like 300 or more years old. They are very cool. And of course, up in Washington State, we don't get any of this. But when it rains, it doesn't wash our courses away. So we got that going for us. This does have variable suspension, and it is tied into the drive modes when you're driving normally. However, when we're in 4-low, you don't get drive modes. Instead, we rely on the multi-terrain select system and crawl systems. Right now, we are just driving normal. We don't have MTS on because there's honestly no reason. MTS optimizes the wheel braking system to help shift power around the vehicle. It also has optimizations for difficult, challenging conditions. Since these are not terribly challenging conditions, I don't think we have any need for MTS quite yet. Now, one nice thing about this vehicle is the improved articulation over what a unibody can do. And they claim up to 25 inches, but I'm not sure where they're getting that number from. We'll have to measure that on a proper articulation course in the future. One nice thing about 4-low is it does give you a really smooth throttle. We can just kind of move at a low speed here, and we are definitely moving at a slow speed. Hey, look, cactus. Actually, one thing I am surprised about is the sheer variety of cacti. I mean, you think, okay, these type of cactus, the Sonara or whatever they're called, but then you also have these little prickly guys, and you have little bushy guys, and then you also have little guys that just want to like impale your feet. Earlier, in fact, we saw a javelina with one of these little cactuses poked like right in his face. Poor little guy. No, I am not going to help unpoke a wild animal with very sharp teeth. Hard pass on that. And actually, nice about this view is we can see Roman and Tommy's GX 550 right in front of us, and we can see that suspension working. So next time we go over an obstacle, check out that how far it articulates. And that is one of the big advantages of the EKDSS system. It allows you to have that flat cornering or flattish cornering on paved surfaces when you're driving fast. However, when you're going slow over obstacles, it'll give you that articulation that you need. Now, historically, it was based on a hydraulic system, but this one is actually electronic and uses electronic actuators. The benefit there is it actually makes the system quicker, and according to Toyota's head engineer, it also makes it more reliable.
The main advantage of switching to an electronically controlled EKDSS is the more linear and precise management of the engagement and disengagement of the stabilizer lock.
The suspension is actually doing a really good job of keeping us comfortable. It's smooth. I'm really enjoying this. So if you want to talk overlanding, which I think this vehicle is very nicely equipped for, this is the kind of road that you're going to be on most of the time. It's a ill-prepared forest road, or one that's like, not maintained regularly. And for this kind of road, this vehicle is practically perfect. You got lots of room because it's only a 2-row. You can put a rack up on the top or a platform up on the top. In fact, they're going to have tons of options for this. They partnered with a number of manufacturers, including ARB and Yakima, for easy upgrades to the GX 550. And I'm really kind of excited to see what they're going to offer. In many ways, this GX is the polar opposite of what Toyota did with the Sequoia. With the Sequoia, they basically had the Tundra platform. They said, what can we get away with that meets the minimum requirements of what this type of vehicle needs to be? With the GX, it feels like everything has been engineered with purpose, even more so than the LX, which is of course based on the full-size Land Cruiser. This one being a Prado, they didn't just badge engineer this vehicle, they made a lot of changes that make it uniquely Lexus. And I'm not just talking about the massage seats, although I do like the massage seats. I mean, the looks, very different. Yes, you have the same proportions, but they did a really good job of giving it a very unique look. You also have the adaptive suspension. You're not going to get that on a normal Land Cruiser, at least in the US. And, you know, you just have this whole interior. Everything is designed to improve visibility outside the cabin, whereas the LX600 feels really like it's been squeezed. It's like they took a Land Cruiser and squeezed it into a Lexus bodysuit. This one feels like it's supposed to be the vehicle that it is, and I think it's pretty great. For me, I wouldn't even consider the LX with this new GX on the market. The LX is not very big on the inside. It has a very polarizing look on the outside, and yeah, it has Land Cruiser capability, but at that cost, I just don't see the value. This one, it provides capability, it looks great in my opinion, and it's the total package. Something everybody asks me when I do a long adventure is, how does the vehicle handle washboard? Because no matter where you go, there's always washboard, and especially if you do like, you know, Death Valley, yeah, you're gonna be on hours of washboard. So we got some right here. How does this feel? I mean, actually pretty good. I mean, it soaks up those hard edges. It's smooth riding. I really like it. The adaptive suspension does what it's supposed to do, and that's kind of the point, right? So here we have our first real kind of challenge obstacle. They've dug out a hole on the right, we got a little berm on the left, and we're just gonna see how this Torsen center diff system works. I'm gonna go ahead and lock the middle. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna do that yet. We're gonna get up on it, we're gonna get a little wheel spin, and then I'm gonna lock it, and then you can see the difference. So let's go ahead and keep that off. We're just gonna roll into this to kind of see what it's gonna do. Now the benefit of KDSS is you actually get a lot more wheel articulation than you would normally get. See, we're actually lifting, and it's using wheel braking to actually get us over, but if we want to smooth things out a little bit, we can turn on that center lock, and at this point it's the same as a part-time four-wheel drive system. That middle is locked. It's not adjusting. It's not like a Kia where you're going to have a center clutch that slips and overheats and it decides it's on, decides it off. No, that is a straight 50-50 lock right now. So I'm going to go ahead and roll out of it. We got a lot of gravity on our side here, so I'm just using the idle and 4 low to kind of move us forward, and it's working fine. Smooth and slow. And on the outside, you can see the articulation. I'm kind of surprised with how much articulation we get on the front with this vehicle. It's not something you would expect in a luxury kind of off-roader, but hey, here we are. The future is awesome. Now up here, it looks like it's a little slipperier, so I'm going to keep that center lock on, but I'm also going to dive into MTS, the Multi-Terrain Select System, and we're going to dial in. Let's do mud, because it looks like mud. Now, what's the difference between a mud setting and other setting? Well, mud will actually allow for a little bit of wheel spin because you want to clear those lugs as you're filling up, because if your lugs fill up with all mud, you basically have a slick. So it's going to allow for a little wheel slip, but do a really good job of shifting that power left to right. It kind of replaces the need of a locker, but no fear, this also has a rear locker on tap, but it doesn't have a front locker. So I guess you could say the G-Wagon from Mercedes for $120,000 is still superior to the GX 550. And like, well, that was easy.
It walks through like it's nothing.
Yeah. Now you will notice that as we're moving along here, if I speed up, the camera goes away at about 8 miles per hour. Slow down, it comes back on. Now, if you do hit this button here, then it'll just shut it off. So when you go over 8, it goes away, but now it doesn't come back. Of course, I want it on, so I'm gonna hit the button down there. I'm gonna turn that on there. Now it'll automatically turn on whenever I go under the speed of about 8 miles per hour. You can see on the side here that we have a step board. Now, the upper trims do have a retractable step board. which can be turned on or off depending on your needs. Luckily, on the Overtrail edition, they are just fixed, but they are not rock sliders. However, Lexus is making it so you can option those from the dealer. So you want rock sliders, just order them with it, which is kind of cool. So at this point, I would love to see what this angle is. Let's put it as deep as possible, as tilty as possible. So according to the graph here, we are, so if that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, oh wait, 1, we're probably about 14, 15, see if that's 5, 10, wait, no, 20, how's that math work? That's 30, oh, 10, 20, 30, okay, so yeah, we're about probably 15 degrees of tilt right here. Yeah, no, that's getting steeper, that's like 20 degrees of tilt. Nice. Right, so that's our first drive with the new Lexus GX 550. I gotta say, I'm pretty excited. I think that this thing is just really, it's really nicely put together. It's really well thought out. They have all the stuff that I want in a vehicle like this. Now, if you watch the show a lot, you know I have an order in for a new Land Cruiser. And it's a first edition, and hopefully it'll be here around March or April. So why did I buy that instead of this? Well, first off, I'm really interested, of course, in that Turbo 4 with the hybrid setup. I think that that's going to be really interesting, especially for off-road. You get that hybrid crawl, which is just really nice. Also, I just don't need all the amenities. I mean, I like massage seats. I'm not really going to pay for them. However, if you want something that's like the Land Cruiser, but you don't want a hybrid, and you want more power, and you want something with all these amenities, then obviously the GX 550 is a great choice. I kind of think that this is in a category of one today. I mean, how many turbocharged 6s, body-on-frame construction, luxury vehicles can you buy? I mean, you could argue that the Jeep Grand Cherokee kind of plays in that space, and the Trailhawk Edition definitely is competitive. I would love to do a comparison between these two vehicles or even against the new Land Cruiser. But I think, you know, overall, I think what Lexus has here is a fantastic addition to the category, and I'm looking to getting more wheel time with this in the future where we'll really put it through its paces. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share our videos, make them for you. Hope you enjoy them. And we'll see you again right here real soon.